Hello everyone, welcome to our aTech channel. Today we're going to find the truth about carbon taxes. They provide a financial incentive to reduce emissions. So greenhouse gas emitters will switch to a low carbon alternative if costs less than the tax. Before we begin, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, and if you have any suggestions on topics we could ever cover, you could leave us a little comment after this video. Without further ado, here's what the carbon tax is. As global temperatures continue to rise and ice caps continue to shrink, one thing can start become visibly clear. COP26 isn't working the way we hoped, so we need to look for alternative ways for monitoring and reducing our carbon emissions. This is where the carbon tax comes in. The idea of carbon tax was first raised in 1997 at COP3, which led to the crypto protocol, and it's regularly raised in international climate summits. The carbon component is already applied by about 50 countries in the world. It is levied on companies that produce carbon dioxide, CO2, through their activities. It is used as an incentive to reduce the use of carbon-intensive fuels throughout the economy and protect an environment from the harmful effects of expansive carbon dioxide emissions. For example, all fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas contain carbon, which is released as carbon dioxide when these fuels are burned. The released carbon dioxide acts as a greenhouse gas. It prevents an infrared radiation generated by sunlight that heats the Earth from effectively escaping to space, creating a heat-trapping effect. Over time, the buildup of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere contributes to climate change and causes irreversible damage to the environment. In addition, the carbon tax operates on the economic principle of externalities. When a company generates pollution through carbon dioxide emissions, it is said to produce a negative, externally a cost to society through a damage it causes to the environment. A carbon tax is then a way to internalize this cost. In other words, it is a market-based solution that relies on the principle that emissions will be reduced when companies are forced to pay at least part of the cost of the externality they have created. In addition, such a tax has potential to encourage companies to invest in environmentally friendly, renewable energy and reduce the economic-wide dependence on fossil fuels. In the early 21st century, a number of countries such as Canada, Ireland, Sweden have began using carbon tax system in which companies are required to pay a tax based on carbon count of the fuels they use in their product. European Union countries, on the other hand, chose to rely on a part of the market-based trading system called the European Union Emissions Trading System, ETS, in which companies are allowed to buy and sell emissions allowances among themselves. Many Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, and Eastern European countries have indirectly taxed carbon dioxide emissions through taxes on energy production and motor vehicles. In addition, in the United Kingdom in 2013, following a carbon tax of about $25 USD per ton, coal use has fallen sharply. Greenhouse gas emissions in the UK were found to be at their lowest level since 1890. And in Canada, in 2008, British Columbia introduced a carbon fee. In the first 4 years of the program, fossil fuels were found to have declined more than 17%. In Sweden, since the mid-1990s, emission levels have fallen by 20%, while still being able to sustain a period of strong economic growth. This was due to the introduction of 1991 of the carbon tax 33 euros per ton, which has increased over time to 120 euros per ton, with reduced rates offered to companies in manufacturing, agriculture, and forestry sectors. In addition, in France, according to the website climate.selectra, the government have planned a gradual increase so that the individuals and businesses could adapt their behavior. Initially, at £7 per ton CO2, the carbon tax is now £44.6 per ton of CO2. Under the energy translation law of green growth, the carbon tax must reach £100 per ton of CO2 in 2030. However, since 2019, the carbon tax remains set at £44.6. Indeed, the planned increase in carbon tax at the end of 2018 had initiated the Yellow Vests movement. Note that the main criticism of the carbon tax is the lack of redistribution of revenue, resulting in a direct impact on the purchasing power of most vulnerable. Indeed, the poorest people spend a significant part of their income on energy. For the 10% of poorest households, the carbon tax represents 1% of their income. i.e. an average of 110 euros, while in the richest 10%, the carbon tax represents 0.2% of their income, i.e. an average of 203 euros. In addition, the Climate Action Network is calling an implementation of climate income, whose purpose would be to redistribute part of the carbon tax revenues to the poorest households through tax credits. Today, the carbon tax is one of the best tools to promote the energy transition and limit polluting activities. This is necessary to meet climate commitments and reduce France's CO2 emissions, as highlighted by the Council des Prévilements Obligatoires in a report published in September 2019. The challenge of the carbon tax is to reconcile climate commitments and social justice. However, in Australia, due to lack of political understanding and poor communication about the beneficiaries, the Australian carbon tax introduced in 2012 was quickly abolished in 2014. Although the carbon tax they implemented achieved the goals of efficiency and equality, it failed, as its political communication failed. What is interesting about this case is that the carbon emissions decreased significantly when the carbon tax was in place, and they increased significantly after the carbon tax was removed. This clearly demonstrates that policies and how the goal of tax is communicated to the electorate and are important factors to consider when deciding on carbon tax policy. It can also be difficult to measure the amount of carbon produced, and thus difficult to know what level of carbon tax to apply. It is also difficult to know the cost of carbon emissions on environmental and future generations. Carbon tax has led to possibility of tax evasion. For example, companies try to hide the true level of pollution. Alternatively, we can outsource production of countries with less straitened tax systems, effectively exporting pollution to poorer countries. Carbon taxes have made required global agreements. The tax may also discourage investment. According to Economics Help, one encouragement made by businesses is that carbon taxes discourage investment and reduce profitability. And that's it. We've reached the end of our topic on the truth of carbon taxes. What do you think on carbon tax is, and why is it necessary? What are the benefits and outcomes? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed our topic of the day, leave us a little blue thumbs up. Make sure you don't miss our next topic. Don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to turn on that bell notification. Thanks for sticking around until the end of the video, and I'll see you on aTech.